Hello and welcome to the video. Today's an exciting day if you are a Walksnail pilot or maybe been on the fence about investing in the Walksnail system. Maybe you're an analog pilot that's been looking at all this HD stuff and debating whether or not to take the plunge for this season. Until now, the cheapest way to get into the Walksnail system, if you didn't have any goggles, was via the Fat Shark Recon HDs. Those are about £250, $250. These are the brand new Walksnail L goggles that have just been released today, and these are about $50 cheaper. Now, the cost of any HD system isn't in the goggles, let's be honest, it's actually in the airside units that you need to put in each machine. They can be anything from $120 to about $180 a time. So if you have 10 models, that adds up really quickly, unless you figure out a way to be able to move those units around from model to model. And I do that with a couple of my planes because I'm cheap. However, this is a way for those of you that don't want to invest in something like the much more expensive Walksnail Goggle X's, which are the current state of the art for the Walksnail system. You can now get into it with something that costs not that much more than the cost of an avatar unit itself. Now, there's a couple of cute things in here. I'm going to unbox it and show you how it comes, talk about the key highlights with this. It's not a binocular goggle. It has these kind of two lenses at the front, sadly not wide enough for glasses to go in there. I know some of you will be asking me about that. Here at the front there is a nice 4.5 inch 1920 by 1080p 60 frames a second LCD screen that's very bright and easy to see. There's an integrated antenna, we have the controls on the side, we have a nice exhaust. The fan on this is nice and good. But it has a couple of cool things. One of these things is actually coming to the Goggles X, hopefully this month as well. And that is inbuilt in here. There's also a head tracker. So if you were interested in head tracking in glorious HD, this has it in. Now this is by no means the first goggle to have that kind of technology inbuilt, but the way it's implemented in here is actually kind of cute. In addition to the goggle, you may have spotted on the Walksnail website, if you've been mooching around, they have also released a gimbal. That gimbal, along with this and some base equipment, is going to be able to let you do that head tracking stuff relatively easily. I talked a couple of weeks ago about how I have my own 3D printable pan and tilt thing, although I expect the Walksnail one is going to be far superior in terms of its smoothness. The other thing that I'm really pleased to see, and this is personally why for me Walksnail is the system that I've gone for, the support for that gimbal has already been added into the next release of iNav 8.0. So sometimes if you're watching the GitHub stuff and these projects, you gotta spot some of the stuff that's going on. But that means that when iNav 8 comes out, I will be using these or the Goggle X's with the head tracking stuff turned on, with probably their gimbal to stick it on top of a plane and show you how to set all that great stuff up. So while I unbox it, let me go through some of the headlines. Again, this has the same kind of functions and performance in terms of the Walksnail system as all of the other goggles that are around. Again, it will work with all of the same avatar units. The great thing about Walksnail is that everything works together. You don't have to worry about the versions. It has a 4.5 inch 1920 by 1080p 60 frames per second LCD screen at the back, LHCP antenna. I think it's a 4 dB antenna at the front, so it's a big patch antenna. It'll run from 2 to 6S, so that's 6 to 25.3 volts DC input, using a DC 5.5 but 2.1 millimeter plug. 9-axis gyro inside, so that's a gyro, accelerometer and a magnetometer, and that support is supposed to be released for, as I said, the Walksnail Goggle X's in July as well. And on the side there's the joystick, back and record buttons, and it's also got the bind button by the side of those. And then at the bottom we have the power input and the HT output. That's also the head tracker or HT update port as well. SD card is hidden behind the top foam, so if you're wondering where that is, it's still in there, so you can record all of your telemetry and DVR data. And be aware that there isn't any focus adjustment on the lenses. I need about 1.5 for reading, but I can see the screen okay. I think if you needed any more than that, you probably need to put your contacts in, because as I've said, unfortunately you can't fit glasses inside this like some of the wider goggles do. In terms of using it, well, it's simplicity itself. You just power it up, you bind it to the avatar Walksnail unit, and it's all gonna work. That built-in high-performance directional antenna at the front has worked really nicely with the flying that I've done here. Again, gain up to 4 dBi, gives a nice stable signal, and flying distance is okay so long as you keep it out in front of the goggles. The really cute thing is they've thought about how you center the head tracker if you're doing it, because there isn't any buttons for that. And to do that, you just simply press the middle button 3 times and it centers the head tracker. Very cute. Now this means for those of you that have been sat on the fence and it's the cost of investing in this kind of system, is it's now cheaper than ever to get the Walksnail system. I know some people will be looking at this and be disappointed that there isn't an analog input. They'll be disappointed that it doesn't have lots of different features. But this is aimed at those pilots who don't want all the doohickeys, who just want a goggle that is going to work, that's going to be robust, that's going to fit. Speaking of fit, this is probably one of the best fitting goggles from Walksnail that I have had here. There's actually sufficient padding and there's not great big whacking light leaks around my nose. So it's actually designed to fit Western faces, which is great. Something that I've had to adjust in both the original Walksnail goggles and the Walksnail Goggle X's. Screen is nice and bright and easy to focus on. Again, if you struggle with very close up, maybe you have a prescription of 2 or above, you might want to put your contact lenses in. Love the fact we have a head tracker output. I've been waiting for that for my Goggle X's for quite a long time, and hopefully that will appear in that soon. So let's keep an eye on the firmware. I like the price point. I think that is going to be attractive, and it might be the difference between people treating themselves to one set of these and maybe a couple of avatar units and not. And the fan, just for those who are interested, does seem to be nice and strong. It's not particularly loud, but you can definitely hear it when there's nothing else going on in the house. However, out in the field, you can't really hear it, but it does a great job of keeping those lenses nice and clear. And there isn't a power button. To power it on, you just plug the cable into the bottom and it powers on instantly. Personally, I like it that way. It just means that I do with occasionally with things like the original goggles forget to press the power button when I plug it all in. I kind of pull them down over my eyes and I'm looking at a black screen. So I do like the fact that it does that. The only other thing is this is a light bar at the front. You can turn it off, and I have. It looks like something out of Tron with that light on. It's an interesting choice. We had those red lights at the front of the Walksnail X's, but you know, you can turn them off. And for some people, they're going to like the white plastic, because in bright sunshine, it's not going to get hot. There are only a couple of things to be aware of from the testing and flying that I've done here. There is a very faint reflection of the screen from the backside of the lenses. You can't really see it when you're flying around, but it's very faint, but you can see it when you are navigating the menu. Again, there is the issue where you can't fit any glasses in here. It's not big enough, so if you're wearing glasses, it's not going to fit. So be aware of that if you need sight correction for very close up. There also isn't an AV or a HDMI input or output, so you're not going to be able to feed it into a screen like you can with the other goggles. And don't forget the SD card is hidden away under the top foam here. And updating the head tracker is via a cable. I've been using a regular stereo cable playing with the head tracking stuff here, but I'm guessing that specialized cable is something you have to buy if you need to update the head tracker, because that isn't in the box. And that's the last thing really. There isn't a case for this. It would have been nice if there was a soft case. I personally would treat yourself to some kind of soft case to keep this in if you're going to have it in your backpack. But congratulations, Walksnail, another very nice set of goggles. Another choice, along with the gimbal, for Walksnail pilots to fly in the way that they want. And congratulations for continuing to work with projects like iNav and Betaflight and others too. That means that those of us that are using Walksnail can be confident when you bring this new technology out, it's going to be integrated into the open source projects that we love. Thank you for watching my video. Check out the playlist, and adding Pedantry 60 to your search terms will help you find my content. If you haven't done so already, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. You can support the time I spend here answering questions and helping others by using the links in the video description.